everyone. Welcome to this podcast. My name's Jane Brown. I'm one of the lead consultants at Simplify Consulting. I'm really delighted to be joined here today with Phil Goffin, who's the CEO of Xylo. Thank you so much, Phil, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I didn't know if you just wanted to give a brief overview of Xylo and who you are in the industry.
Sure. Well, my name's Phil Goffin. From the accent, you'll probably tell that I'm not quite British, although I am from New Zealand, so somewhere along the line of mixed heritage. I've been in the UK for the last 25 years, though, so I kind of moved up as a sort of 30-year-old, which will give you an indication of my age, many years ago. And ended up for my sins, I think, being thrown into the middle of the global asset management industry. Originally, I worked for Threadneedle Asset Management and helped create something called Co-Funds, which people will know of, and then sort of became very entrepreneurial, both inside and outside of corporates along the way. I was a founder of Calastone, and a number of other businesses along the way, as well as being head of innovation at IFDS a number of years ago, and finally before in the corporate world at FNZ, where I was Chief Technology Officer and then Director of Innovation there before leaving in 2020 or 2019 to set up Xylo. So for me, Xylo is probably the culmination of my whole experience in financial services, both in the UK and globally. And we set up Xylo really because we are extraordinarily frustrated, not just me, but the team of people, fabulous team that I've been working with, who've all been in the industry for a long time. We're very frustrated, I think, with the way that the industry was moving at a technological level, and this is not a new thing. It's been something that has been there for a long time, where the large incumbent players have really not innovated, and they've sat back on their legacy technologies and infrastructure and generated significant revenues and profitability over time, as you do when you reach the scale that a number of them are. But not really reinvested that money into really pushing the industry forward at an innovation level. And so we kind of set Xylo out to be that transformation, but we said we'll take a contrarian view and we'll build from the ground up. So we'll start at transfer agency with a core fund administration, the core book of record of the industry, if you like, for the asset manager, and work our way forward.
It's very, very interesting to hear sort of where you've taken Xylo, and also your history as well, in terms of where you've, like you're saying, Xylo's kind of your, where it's all built from all your experience is interesting to hear.
Yeah.
And, we come across in the work that we do all the time, the process issues, the tech issues that are obviously, we're so far behind in this industry in terms of tech. So it's great to hear some of the things that you've said. And if we look ahead to 2024, then, so start of the year, what are the themes and opportunities do you think for our industry over the next 12 months?
Well, look, yeah, so a number of kind of key themes around 24 for Xylo, and I think also for our industry itself. For us, we've completed a Series A. I think was the fifth largest Series A. Let's say we completed it in literally the day before Christmas.
Good Christmas for you. Good celebration.
Yeah, it was a good for me and for 24, and for Xylo particularly. I mean, so at the Xylo level, I think we're in a really interesting year for us. We've obviously raised capital. We've injected a lot of capital into the business, some of it my own, over the past few years, and that's been a journey. We went live mid-year last year with a very large global custodian and their asset management client for several $1 billion of asset, and so that's been running really well for us. And now we're working with another two, actually three clients on moving their assets. Our business at Xylo is on the transfer agency side, is not just to create a transfer agency that kind of people can just come along to, but actually to work with primarily custodian banks and strategic partners and move, hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of asset to re-warehouse the industry and transform it over the next, 3 to 5 years. It's pretty ambitious, and there's lots of questions that people will be going, well, how can you do that? How can you migrate that level of asset, etc. But perhaps, that's for another time, but that's definitely where we're focusing. For us then, we deployed live into the UK market. For us now, it's very clear on our plan is to add the next two major global markets for us, which is Ireland and Luxembourg, which really gives us the huge offshore as well as onshore capability, and we're working with our custodian bank clients on that. And then we'll progressively move towards Asia and the United States, and the likes of the investors we've had, which you can see are really powerful in helping drive us and keep our focus on that. But it's not just about deploying market and regionality, it's about ensuring that we continue to roll out great features and functionality into the platform that we have. For sure, at the moment we do transfer agency, but for sure we'll add wealth and sub-register capability into that, because we've had the portals in our product, the digital front end since the get-go in 2020. So for us, which include retail experiences and so forth. So for us to add, retail and wealth management type functionality, I think will be a natural. The second part that we sort of talk about, everyone's talking about artificial intelligence and things like that. Personally, I've been involved in AI for a number of years. I helped start one of the first AI labs around the music industry a number of years ago that subsequently sold itself to Triller. So it's always been a kind of huge part of what I see as the future of the industry. Many years ago, everyone was talking about robo-advice, and I was saying, well, artificial intelligence ends up meaning financial advice and stuff. And I think I don't know if I got shouted down, I got ignored very easily. It was probably a grand statement that without a lot of substance, but actually what we've seen now with the likes of generative AI is this kind of, and even before we're moving into multimodal kind of models, this kind of huge step change. For Xylo, AI has been a core part of what we do since the get-go, both in the platform we use and not robotics. I think robotics, when people talk of RPA, robotic process administration, I think that's a cop-out and at a technology level, and it's basically just a way of trying to wire up bad operational processes or historic operational processes. We kind of, it's easy for me to say that, if because we're starting from a clean tech stack. If you're starting from something that's legacy, it's probably sometimes the only way you can serve a purpose,
can't it? If in that case, yeah.
But so I'm probably being slightly disingenuous to some of the existing parties, but for us, it's always been something that we've said, look, we artificial intelligence through operational process is really important, but actually also through our engineering, through our whole business. So we're a transformative business, even in the way that we do our stuff with AI. So, our documentation isn't written by technical authors, it's written by our AI, not a, ChatGPT-4, it's our version of it and what we're doing. So I think we've really dialed into that and pushing really aggressively through all of that market space, and because we can, but also because we see it as hugely important the way that industry has. I was at Well, I guess one of the great things of just doing a Series A is the halo effect. So I was invited to a CEO forum recently. What was really interesting is you're either all in with AI or you're not at all. And I guess for Xylo, we're all in. I think the other thing that I picked up through that was that they said that, everyone talks about AI taking jobs and things like that, but actually, what it does is it's a performance enhancer for humanity, right? So you can look at it in two ways. The negative way, which I think sometimes the UK does, because they're quite self-effacing, or we look at it as a way as like we're going to get this huge progression in capability in teaching and being able to learn so much easier, so much with so much data and information at our fingertips, and to be able to transform through that and get hyper levels of growth, I think is really the exciting thing about AI. I don't believe that AI is going to end up being the existential threat that with this sort of singularity and everything that people talk about, but I do think it's a massive transformer for society and people, and in a positive way. So we want to kind of be there with our technology to make sure that we're running alongside of all of that and in step.
Yeah, we ran an event last October, which is very operations focused, but obviously there were tech discussions, as you would expect. And AI came through a lot in that day. But I think one of the overarching themes was humans are still really important. Obviously, AI will, like you said, progress and support. Obviously, it can go through loads of data at a massive rate and support operations in a sense. But humans aren't going to be replaced as a result, was kind of like the theme. Humans are still important, etc. So
yeah,
kind of connects with what you've sort of said there.
Well, I think AI becomes an arbitrage between OPEX spend and IT spend, right? So if you look at it at that level, is rather than all of this money on traditional operational processing and now you spend the money on, well, what we'll see is the money being spent on IT, on artificial intelligence to get those efficiencies, but the AI is kind of at that level, is smarter and more efficient and more capable than people. What those people do then is they can transform and learn more and learn new jobs and new roles and new capabilities.
That's it.
So look, I'm really bullish about it. We're investing heavily in it as a business, at an engineering level, but actually, for us, still first things first, which is make sure that we have a really information security is massively important in our industry. We feel as a business, even for a startup, we're relative startup, we're driving really, really highly at that level, first for security by design. And then for us is, I think we're world class at that. I think we've looked at what our peers do, and sometimes we think it's not enough. Sometimes they're great, and we take all the lessons from that and make sure that we do that as as strong as we can.
Thank you. And so then looking at perhaps the challenges for 2024, lots of opportunity that you've sort of talked through.
Yeah. So look, for a business such as Xylo, the challenges we're still deep in product build. Lots and lots of product capability, functionality to do. I mean, that's going to continue 24, 25, hopefully on a continuing basis, because one of the things I've kind of really set forth with our new investors is that we're a business that will continually spend in our innovation and R&D, and innovation has to be something that's fundamental to everything we do. In fact, most businesses should, and the UK is a really strong economy around innovation. Most businesses should really drive that. That's probably the sad thing that I've seen in my career, where a lot of businesses have just stopped innovating, and they've kind of added like a lot of management around their businesses, and that's not necessarily efficient. It puts hierarchy and process, but it doesn't allow for innovation, and there's not a lot of creative thinking that goes on. And it's not how I haven't learned to be a creative thinker or anything. It's just how my DNA has always been like that, and that's had positive and negative things and negative impacts through my career. But the creative level is I'm never satisfied with the way something operates. So I've always kind of, my mind just seems to want to unpack that and see if there's a better way of doing it. And I think probably a lot of innovation entrepreneurs, well, most of them are innovation anyhow, have a similar construct. But for us, it's trying to drive through that innovation. We're obviously onboarding new clients and revenues, and we have to put a lot of rigor and governance around the business as well, because for us, the one thing we set out, which is again very contrarian, and we had significant issues through Series A talking to venture capitalists around this until we found, the ones that really, like Fidelity and Portage, that understood us and understood our business. They all said, "Oh, but you've got a couple of clients, yeah, but they're custodian banks, but yeah, but." There's a concentration risk, but a custodian bank comes with tens, if not hundreds, of asset management clients. And if you run that relationship well and you really service that customer, it's a 10-year plus relationship. So yeah, but you've only got a few clients. Why wouldn't it be better to have like 100 asset managers? And so, but we were very clear about that, and we felt that those large industry players and were the hub of that transformation for us. And if we could deliver for them, and it's really hard to be a startup, just don't get me wrong, and get inside of a large financial services organizations, infrastructure and people and all of that. It's a 2-year journey without even blinking, right? And then you've got to pass all the gates, and you've got to go through security assessments and vulnerability, and it's a real challenge, and you're trying to build a startup at the same time. That's massively significant, but we put the investment into that early on, and we said, look, if we can do this, then it makes everything else so much easier for us down the track, because all of that rigor, that discipline, both in our coding and our technical standards and our governance is already there. So for us, then hopefully we can just be efficient through that, and that's for us. So our challenge is making sure that we have the rigor and discipline, but also are able to continue to move fast and break things, right? So obviously stealing that from Zuckerberg, hopefully not break too many things, but we, for me, it's, can we move faster? I talked about AI, but on the DeFi or distributed ledger world, there's a lot of stuff happening with asset tokenization, and what I tend to see is businesses trying to do asset tokenization, which is fine, and then other businesses trying to almost create market infrastructure. So I'm not sure that we're ready. I'm not sure we're in the market infrastructure solution yet. The ones that tend to be trying to create market infrastructures are obviously, as we are, for-profit organizations, and I'm not sure that's kind of a market infrastructure. Is much more of a utility model in my mind. But at the same time, we have to be mindful as Xylo that our technology can fit either inside or interact with those market infrastructures, and we can accommodate tokenized assets on our platform as easy as traditional mutual funds. So for us, that's really important, and
so you're
staying on top of that.
Yes, you're sort of driving your own innovation, but also obviously what's happening in the market, so that you're not ruled out by not being able to support some of those key things that are happening as well.
Yeah, so we don't see ourselves building, and you know, I considered this back in the FNZ world, I guess, and even before that, but is concept of building a market infrastructure. Calastone at a level was a replacement to failed utilities, like which was originally EMXco, was before it was bought by Euroclear, was almost a failed market infrastructure as a utility model. And I'm not blaming anyone for that, because I was there writing at the early stages, writing the original data exchange manual, right? So I was equally culpable, but I think those market infrastructures are things that will evolve. I think then asset tokenization, we're in a world where we're going to see the concept of CBDC, central bank digital currencies, coming to us much faster than we expect, because actually the central banks in the you know, more advanced countries are running significant projects, not just pilots, but about you know, digital currency. And you know, that's a massive paradigm shift, because if a central bank is issuing a wallet in coins or tokens and stuff, then or currency, then you know, there's a big change for what does a high street bank do, because whereas your app, if your app is a wallet that a central bank issues, then you know, you're taking away a significant amount of what the traditional banks, or even the challengers, are doing. So so there's a kind of quite a mass change around that. And then on the mutual fund industry, we talk about asset tokenization and stuff, and how does that apply, and can we take a mutual fund, that long only fund, that, for example, that prices once a day, can we do fractional investment and make it real time, and all those sorts of things. So all of those things are flowing around our industry at the moment. I see the Investment Association sort of put a paper out, I think late last year, around this, and they said, oh, we're going to tackle the asset tokenization, and then we'll come to AI, you know, later in that. And I'm like, that's really silly, because that's, you know, by the time they get to it, the AI will kind of already be dictating what's going to happen. So I think it's, you know, but it's hard to do all of these things at the same time, right? You know, and they're very, but both of them are, you know, what we're going to see in AI is probably the largest change in productivity since the birth of the internet, right? That's what I can tell you for a fact will happen, and is happening in the next 3 years. So, you know, how do we as a industry embrace that? How does financial services embrace that? How do we, you know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's probably the most exciting time, you know, for someone in the industry that I've ever seen. And, you know, that's, I guess for me, you know, was one of the other things everyone said, well, you know, you've done well along the way, why don't you just kind of retire? And I think I retired for a couple of days. And then, but there's, you know, then I felt, well, I haven't actually, yeah, it's not, I just feel that I haven't achieved my purpose, right? I'm not sure I know what that purpose is, but I feel that there's still more to go.
Well, look, Phil, you know, thanks so much for the chat today. Really, really, really interesting to hear your perspective. And thank you everyone for listening and watching.